Welcome back to the Four Pillar Podcast. And today we are talking about depression and anxiety. And sorry, Four Pillar Podcast, we stand for faith, family, fitness, and finance. And we have Kylie Lashley joining us today to talk about our personal experiences with depression and anxiety, and kind of touching on overdiagnosis and just a couple ways that, now that we're trying to deal with anxiety and depression. I feel like everybody, I think humans in general, everybody's going to deal with anxiety and depression. It's about how much and how intense it is. And, but I think at all points in your life, you're going to deal with it no matter what. That's almost a guarantee. So you want to go first, Matt?
Sure. You want me to share the first time I walked into, I don't remember if it was a psychologist or psychiatrist, I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And we talked about this last week, I was probably in the office for 10, 15 minutes and out the door I went, and I had a prescription for, I think it was Zoloft. So that's a antidepressant. I don't remember if they said, that I was manic depressive or bipolar. I don't think it was bipolar. But one, I can't imagine that anybody could be diagnosed in 10, 15 minutes. And two, looking back on it now as an adult, I think about what my life was like back then. And I think what kid wouldn't have depression, right? And like you're saying, there's being depressed, and then there's, going through things in life that make you sad or depressed, and having a mental illness or, a problem with depression, I guess.
Yeah, because what you're saying is, with any illness or anything, you can't be diagnosed in 10 or 15 minutes, except for maybe if you have a sprained wrist, I guess. But really, when you start getting into those things, I don't think there's anything you can really diagnose with somebody like in 10 or 15 minutes in an office visit and a doctor without really getting into like what's going on, because so much of that too is your psychology, your mental health as well. And like you were saying, there's probably things that you were doing in your life or how you're living your life or doing whatever, that if you were to like look at it and be like, well, no doubt this person is getting anxiety and depression. I'm not saying this about you. I'm just saying in general, if you look at someone else and go, okay, they're 100 pounds overweight, they drink a 12 pack every night, they fight with their wife every night, they do this, they do that,
they work.
No doubt you're going to have depression and anxiety. You're setting yourself up to have anxiety and depression, right.
Which I think is different. I do believe, and I might be one of them, I'm not sure, but I do believe there's some people that need medication.
Absolutely. Because
they have, what do they call it? Like an imbalance, right? And then some people, I think that their mental health is, that could be improved by, the environment they're in, the life that they're living, stuff like that.
And even if you do have a chemical imbalance, I think you can still do those other things to
absolutely
to help optimize your life to the best of possibilities. And also too, I think too, you're talking about the chemical imbalance, depending on how severe it is. I think you could potentially even fix that if you go to the right doctor. I guess I can share, going into that, I can share my story. So you said Zoloft. I think that's the number one probably prescribed antidepressant or depression medicine, whatever. That's what I was first subscribed was Zoloft. I've been on it. I'm still on, which I know Matt's still on his. I've been on mine for almost like 7 or 8 years now. I think 8, but I think 8, maybe even 9. It might have been even 9. But basically I had I was going through a hard time after I graduated high school, and anxiety, I guess if you want to say anxiety or whatever, runs in my family. My mom's took medication on and off. My one side of my grandparents did. So I guess you could say it runs in my family. But then I don't think there's a lot of things that go into it. Like, I don't think you're ever taught with how to cope with your emotions correctly when you're growing up a lot of times, or cope with anxiety and stress. So, I like growing up, I always had like those, I think, like little like flash panic attacks. And, I was like, yeah, whatever. But then I got to one point, after I graduated high school, starting college, big life change, a lot of stuff going on. And I just had like a big triggering moment where like I took, I took way too much. I was addicted to like the whole caffeine thing, pre-workouts, all that crap. And I remember I got like I just sent me down to I had a big, humongous panic attack. Ended up going to the hospital, thought I was dying, the whole 9 yards. Then for a reason, what really freaked me out too, I got like a double nosebleed, like there's nose shooting out both sides of my nose. I'm freaking out. I think I'm having a stroke or something, go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, from that point on, my life was never the same after I kind of had that big, like, triggering event of not like that, basically like a panic attack. I dealt with like I had anxiety and depression. Just, it was weird. It was almost like a light switch got turned on. And, from that point on, it took me about a year before I actually started taking medicine. Because I didn't want to take medicine. I tried to see a therapist. I tried to do some research on my own, like what's tried to help. I still tried to work out and like do different stuff like that. But I mean, like what you were kind of talking about, sometimes you do need medicine, especially maybe to get you through like a rough time or something.
Right. Sometimes it can be like what they call seasonal.
Right. I tried to go like a year without taking it. I got to the point where like I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't go to a class. I could, but like I would, I was having like where like it was. It sounds crazy. It's the craziest thing. Like I'd leave my house and I just start sweating. Profusely. Like it looked like I just ran like 10 miles sweating whenever I went into like a public place or, then I had just where I felt like I couldn't breathe, like the whole like, panic attack stuff. So then, I flash forward a year, I'm still dealing with it. That was almost like hell on earth. You're talking about literally like hell on earth for a year. Cause I tried to like not take medicine for a year. And then, I took Zoloft, started taking Zoloft, went to a doctor and it fixed it. Taking that Zoloft, it got me back to normal where I could like leave my house again and, live a normal life. But that was kind of my experience with that. But same thing. What you just said, you went into a doctor's office for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's the same thing. Like I saw a therapist or whatever, and she said, "Well, you think you should take some?" Like, yeah. At one point, you're probably right. So I went and saw a family doctor. Same thing, right? You go in there, hey, this therapist told me I need to take medicine. Like, she didn't run blood work, she didn't do anything. She just asked me questions about, if I felt like shooting myself or whatever.
Do you feel safe at home?
Yeah, do you feel safe at home? All that crap. And basically it was like, yeah, I think you have anxiety and depression in about 15 minutes. Okay.
Which, to what you said, name a human who doesn't go through that.
Right.
It's part of the human experience. So I think you said something earlier. What is too much? Or how do you know what you have is normal or abnormal?
Right. I don't know. I don't know
how to make that.
Yeah, I think that's hard. But getting into like what I really feel about it, because I was going to share, obviously, like, cause something I'm actually like really proud about or happy about. So first time I've tried to stop taking the medicine off and on. Never been able to do it, and I've successfully cut my dosage in half. Now, and it's almost been it'll be a year, I think, this summer where I've had successfully only taken half a dosage.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you got to that point with the doctor that you're at now?
Right. So, basically, I don't know your experience with this is, Matt, or whatever, but, like, I've taken it for so long, and which I'll come back to this. So I was taking it for like 7 to 8 years. And so, I was starting to like get to the point where like I was starting to have, really bad anxiety again, or depression, whatever, like on and off, like I go through these spells. And, I got to a point where I was like, I mean, I was having trouble. Like, man, I kind of, you know, like, man, I kind of wanted to like die basically. Like I was like miserable feeling, or even suicidal or whatever. And, I went to my doctor and, same thing, like 5 or 10 minutes. She's like talking to me. And she's like, yeah, that's like pretty common. And people taking Zoloft. I'm going to raise your script of Zoloft by 50 milligrams. I'm going to put you on this other medicine. I don't remember what it was called. That's going to help you deal with those suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, absolutely not. And that's where my search began to find a doctor that was going to legitimately help me like feel better in my life, not just cover stuff up. Right.
I'm going to interject a little bit. This is also when Ian was feeling like this. It was when we had a newborn at home. I had postpartum anxiety really bad. And Ian, I think, and I don't want to speak for you, but it was a control thing where you couldn't control my postpartum. Like, you couldn't help me with that. You tried. And things at the gym they're growing, but then you're dealing with those growing pains. And so everything around you was just changing at a rapid pace.
Yeah, it was just stress, anxiety, and a lot of stuff, just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Lack of sleep.
Well, yeah, lack of sleep. But then too, it's just like, well, I mean, where I'm getting at too, when I talk about, I finally found a new doctor. His name's Dr. Serrano. Absolutely love him. And, he's telling me when I go sit in there, the first office visit I spent with this doctor was an hour. He did blood work on me. He did everything, like a bunch of tests. And he goes, yeah, so people don't realize when they like, that's what like doctors do. Like they just keep giving you medication because literally Zoloft, I can't remember the receptors in your brain. Like he broke it down on his whiteboard he has in his office. Like Zoloft literally fries these 2 or 3 receptors in your brain that connect dopamine, and whatever one of the other chemicals are that help you like basically your brain deal with anxiety and stress. And so like when you take Zoloft for so long, it literally fries those and then causes you to have suicidal thoughts. And it's I mean, like, I'm not saying like God is amazing and anything is possible, but I mean, he said like literally it is pretty much impossible to like stop taking this medicine unless you wean yourself off and take supplements to try to fix your brain receptors
with a doctor's guidance.
With a doctor's guidance, but to do that. But he said like they're like, I mean, you're more or less kind of screwed unless you like do it, like get the right doctor and do it right, because it fries your brain. Basically, is what Zoloft does.
I believe it.
So you have to keep taking it or add in more medications. So I mean, like that. I mean, you get when you start talking about anxiety and depression and the medicines with it, like it's a huge slippery slope of things.
It's like making. I mean, especially with our kids. I mean, it's a huge decision.
Oh, absolutely.
To go in this direction or not. I know that I wouldn't want my kids. I mean, I'm on 150 milligrams of Effexor that I'm on year, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, something like that. There was a time when when I was taking this stuff, it says don't take with alcohol. I'm drinking like a case of beer at night.
Right.
Like what the hell, what did that do to me? I wonder, my body, my brain. And now I wonder if I ever needed it in the first place. You know what I mean? But like you said, I can get a second opinion, but my doctor's like, yeah, you're just on this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I hate that.
And the withdrawal from it, if I miss a day or two, it's
horrible.
Yeah. I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Which if I need to add this in really quick, I mean, my personal opinion experience, never try to quit taking your anxiety medicine like by yourself, or like cold turkey, quit taking it. It's absolutely horrible, and it usually doesn't work.
Well, and then I've met a lot of people who take it for a while, and this is what it's supposed to do. They start feeling better.
And they stop, and that's what I
don't need to take it anymore. I'm good now.
I literally did that.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, being Ian's wife, he would lie about it, but I didn't really want to ask him, but he would try to stop taking his medicine cold turkey, and I knew by day 2 or 3, just because he was very absent-minded. He was kind of just very unresponsive, and then he would start getting grumpy, and then he would start getting mean, and it was really hard to live with. And also, kind of going back to when Dr. Serrano was helping you wean off your medicine, you had been taking this medicine since you were a late teenager.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I started taking it actually when I was like 19. It may have actually been 20. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's quite a while.
So you haven't had to deal with being a husband, with being a father, with being all of these things without that medicine. So when you started weaning off of it, it was very weird for you to experience these brand new emotions because you were almost numb to them with the medicine. Am I kind of correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody that takes medicine, some may not describe it as numb, but I mean, it definitely, I think, affects your intensity or lack of intensity for emotions and dealing with them.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think so a little bit, Matt? Or
yeah, it's been so long that I've been without him, but like you were asking me last week, do I feel emotion? Do I feel numb? Like, I feel like I still have those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't come out in ways of, real low lows, the depression, crying, whatever, real highs, I'm pretty much, I don't know, maybe flatlined. Like, you know what I mean?
Flatline, yeah.
Very even keel.
Yeah.
But you still can feel extremely happy, like on your wedding day.
You
were extremely
it looks exactly
happy.
like this, right?
Right. Well, yeah.
My depression looks exactly like this, and my everything.
Yeah.
But as far as feeling sadness or empathy for somebody else, or heartbreak or whatever, I still feel all that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't automatically make you not have feelings for people, but
right.
Like lowering my dose in half, I definitely can tell a difference. I mean, as far as how you deal with them or have those emotions or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important part is, your quality of life, right?
Absolutely.
You talked about, at first you said I wouldn't leave the house, and you kind of changed that and said you would leave the house, but you just had these, this anxiety along with it, which I think some people don't leave the house with it. And maybe it is debilitating. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe some people just say, well, I'm feeling these feelings, so I can't do X, Y, and Z. When I think if you go out and do it anyways, then it starts to, well, one, you're going to see that you can.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. I walk myself into a lot of situations, especially if I have to speak in front of people, right now being one of them. Like, it's not comfortable for me. But does that mean I should just say, no, I'm not going to do it and sit in my office while you guys do this? And the more I do it, I don't want to say every single time it gets easier, but I guess the point is you can stay home and have these feelings, or go out and live your life and go to work with these feelings. Right. Which one's going to improve your life?
Yeah. I think that's very important when we talk about anxiety and depression, and I'm talking about, overdiagnosing yourself with a doctor as well. Like, regardless, you have to do stuff that makes yourself uncomfortable and push through it, like what you're saying.
Well, and sometimes, anxiety is fear of the future, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get to that and you go through, and it wasn't not nearly as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Right.
But if you were too afraid to face that, then you never got to know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We actually just had a church sermon about that called Do It Afraid. Zach led it, who's been on the podcast before. I think it was Zach. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. And he was relating it to stories in the Bible and stuff. It was really good. But I remember when I was a teenager, I was going to therapy for an eating disorder, and I was just very much a people pleaser. And I had been told by ex-boyfriend, old friends, just a lot of influences in my life that like, oh, if you lost this much weight, or you have a pretty face, and it was just very. I wanted to please them, and I never would talk back to anybody. If anybody even raised their voice at me, I would start crying. I would break down, and I kind of, well, as I got older, I got a better relationship with Christ. I started thinking about, who am I trying to please? Is it people or God? And I kind of started this summer of conquering my fears. And I mean, even down to, I hate frogs, and I would go try to find a frog and hold it. And I know that seems silly, but I had to get myself out of a comfort zone of, that way I could stand up for myself and I could be happy, because I was just very, very unhappy. I also dealt with a lot of, after we had our daughter, postpartum anxiety. I went to a family doctor who was very recommended in the area, and they told, after less than 15 minutes, they were like, all right, this is the prescription I'm going to put you on. No blood work, no anything. And it made me feel really awkward, but I didn't say anything to him, because I was like, oh, I trust him. Like, he came recommended. And I came back to the gym and I told Ian, and he's like, yeah, you're not taking that. But
Well,
yeah.
if I was gonna say this, what I would recommend off my personal experience, I think is the best way to do is, like, if you're going in for any kind of disease or whatever you think you have or you're struggling with, I mean, like, if a doctor is not going to do blood work, you might just find a new doctor. They're not good, and if they try to argue with you about it, yeah, you just say, I'm doing, like, yeah, it's not an option. Like,
blood work is what's going to tell you if there's something there or not.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I remember, like, even with my my family doctor, before I went to Dr. Serrano, checking, one, I mean, just checking like micronutrients and stuff. I named off like this one blood test I was looking at, and she's like, didn't even like really even know what I was talking about. But then just even checking like testosterone levels and stuff like that. Like, she like almost refused to like do my blood work for it, to like check, these certain like things or whatever. I'm like, well, that doesn't like make any sense. I'm like the patient, and like, if this affects my health, why don't you want to test it or write a script to, what I'm saying, write a prescription to test like for blood, like these things in your blood. And that, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like, you need to like find a good doctor, a person that can do that, because like when I went to the new doctor, the first thing he did was he ran blood work, and it was all like micronutrients blood work too. It just wasn't like your cholesterol and stuff like that. It was micronutrients. So first thing he got back and he looked at, he's looking at my blood work. He goes, hey, like, obviously, there's a lot of other things that go with dealing with anxiety and depression, right? But he goes, your omega-3s are garbage. Your zinc levels are like almost not even existent. You, what was the other one? Vitamin D. He said your vitamin D is horrible. And he goes, your B vitamin, your folate, and one of the B vitamin, I think it was B12, is garbage. And he goes, that's literally probably why you're having anxiety and depression. And I'm like, wait a second here. So you're telling me that like literally someone's giving me a medicine, right, to take this, and or all this other stuff, and it's like what's this doing? He's like, it's literally doing nothing. Like, you're literally you literally could substitute like all these micronutrients, and like obviously it's going to take time, maybe like 2 or 3 months, and you may not even have anxiety depression anymore. It's literally because your omegas, your zinc, your magnesium. Magnesium was one of them, and that B vitamin strand and your vitamin D is like so bad. Your body is not making all the proper compounds and everything in your body. Your systems aren't working correctly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, food's the medicine we need. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
And I think with that, like, obviously diet's huge. Like, I mean, that's the other thing he got onto me about was diet. That's why I don't eat vegetables anymore.
Because he told you not to.
Well, I mean, he like
it was one of the diet options.
It was like one of the diet options. Like, I asked him about it. Like, he's telling me, what I need to eat and all this stuff and how to eat. And I'm like, well, like, what about the carnivore diet? He said, I love the carnivore diet. It's actually what I do. I don't eat vegetables. For most of the time anyway. And so he goes,
he'll eat in season.
Yeah, he'll eat in season fruit and vegetables and stuff. But he goes, but yeah, if you don't want to eat like a single vegetable or even fruit, he told me, like, if you're doing the true carnivore, you don't even have to eat fruit really. But I have problems with my electrolytes too, so that's why I added in fruit. So yeah, I literally he goes, yeah, you eat organ meat, and eat as much, like, eat your meat, your organ meat, and yeah, you're good, man.
You've been feeling.
Oh yeah, I feel amazing. Yeah, absolutely, I feel amazing.
I think the three biggest things are exercise, diet, and sleep.
Right.
For every aspect of your life,
especially anxiety and depression.
Right.
Yeah. Those, without getting into it, we'll do a part 2 on this, but going more in depth with all those. But yeah, you talk about how to deal with anxiety naturally. Sleep, diet, and exercise. I mean, really is ultimately what it comes down to.
Well, that's another
thing. Stress
thing.
Management.
Another thing that Dr. Serrano was talking about to Ian was he actually turned to me and got on me because I co-sleep with our daughter. It's lack of sleep for Ian. It's lack of sleep for me. I haven't slept in the same bed with Ian for 2 years. Eden's a little over 2 now. So it's affecting all 3 of our sleep. And you have to have a doctor who's going to be blunt with you as well. And he's very blunt.
Because you probably didn't want to hear that.
Oh, right? No, I didn't want to hear that. But it was crucial for me to hear. And I might have been upset for a little bit, but it's changed the way I've thought about things. And I think, without trying to get off course, when you have criticism, or when somebody's telling you, hey, you've been in the house for 3 days, you really need to get out and do something. I think today's society, it's like, well, if you feel more comfortable at home, you just stay at home and play video games, or you stay at home and read a book. And you have to go out and do things that make you nervous sometimes. That's the only way you're going to get over some of these things as well.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody recently about her depression, and she was like, don't tell me you're like my dad and tell me that it doesn't exist. And like, I think it exists.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Right. But it's not an excuse, like you're saying, to just cash it all in and just, there's people who get disability, they're just like, I can't work. Sometimes if these people, they do all kinds of things.
Right.
Including going out and partying, but they can't, it's like you can do all this stuff, but you can't work. Right. You can have depression and anxiety and still live the same life as anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not, like I said, maybe there are cases where it is debilitating to that end, but for the most part, in the sense that we're talking about it, we're going through things in life. Doctors, you've got depression. Like in my case, yeah, I have depression because if I listed all the things that I was doing, why would I be happy? I'm not doing anything in my life that would make me happy or have a good life.
That's the next point I was going to bring up was, with anxiety and depression, you can be one of those people that just, you walk in there and you take the medicine and everything, but like, why don't you push yourself to like you're saying, one of the reasons you probably have this is because like you're not exercising, you're not you don't, there's, the 50,000 reasons why you're basically doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
I think the people around you are a big factor too. Have you surrounded yourself with enablers who are going to tell you you're fine in this way, just keep taking your medicine, keep staying at home, XYZ, or have you surrounded yourself with people who are going to push you and make you a better person,
Right.
including your spouse as well? And that's not an excuse to leave your spouse if that's not the case, but spousal support is huge.
And to what you said a few minutes ago, if someone were to tell you to get out of the house, like the only people that are going to tell you that are the people that truly love you.
For sure. Absolutely.
That actually care about you.
Yes.
Everyone else who sees you on that road and it's not a good path to be on and just supports it or high fives you or whatever, they don't care about you at all. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think leaving this offer today, I don't know if you want to share anything else about this, Matt, but I think just getting educated about what you're going to do before you start taking anxiety and depression medicine. 'Cause I'm like really passionate about that now that I've went through this whole road and doing everything. And I mean, if I could leave you with anything, if you're feeling with anxiety and depression, you're struggling with something, what Matt said, push yourself to go do something anyway if it's uncomfortable. And eventually it may get easier, it may not even, but you still need to push yourself to keep trying to live your normal life. But I mean, and then don't hang yourself either, as far as making your life harder than it needs to be. And what I mean by that is, do the things that is scientifically proven to help with anxiety and depression. Exercise, try to eat healthy, try to have good relationships, try to do the things that are going to help you cope with that instead of doing the complete opposite that's going to make the anxiety and depression worse. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is when you're going to I think therapy is amazing. You should see a therapist. Mm-hmm. I even saw a doctor speak at an event here in Mount Vernon, and he says, he actually goes to a therapist 4 times a year every quarter, just as maintenance. Yeah. I think therapy, talking to somebody like that is amazing. I'm not saying you have to like do that or whatever. I don't think it's a bad idea, but there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist, especially if you're a man, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. If you need it, go talk to somebody. But then also, if this is the one thing, this is what I'm really passionate about, find a good doctor. Yeah. And if your doctor's telling you to take medicine, really ask them why and do some research on it and ask them to do your blood work. Like, for example, the 4 or 5 I tell you right now, tell them to test your vitamin D, test your omega-3 levels, test your magnesium, test your B vitamin levels. And if you're a man, get your freaking testosterone levels tested. Those 5 things right there are going to greatly affect your anxiety, your depression, your anxiety, your mood levels. And I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2 of them that are, really big that, I didn't even realize that Dr. Serrano or my doctor even tested or whatever. I'm just throwing out some of the big ones that pinged up that when I did mine was like kind of red flags. So yeah, that's what I want to leave everybody on. Just do it. Don't be a sheep. Be a wolf, baby. Be a wolf.
Deep.
Do you have anything, Matt, you want to add to that?
Not really. You mentioned the therapy. I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy too. But I mean, just going to the appointment and sitting in the room isn't the cure-all. Like, you can take the pill, you can go to therapy. Mm-hmm. It's to help you get along in life. You have to go out and live that life, right? You can sit in that room once a week for 45 minutes. You're not just going to walk out that door one day a different person. This person is giving you ideas and thoughts that you're supposed to go out and like implement. And if you're not going to do that, then it's, so my point being is there's always action to take,
Absolutely. What's your final thoughts, Kylie?
As well with that, with therapy, I think there's also, you find mentors in your life that are going to challenge you to do greater and bigger things. And I mean, in our case, this is the 4 Pillar podcast. So I would suggest finding a church that preaches the gospel in the biblical way, and surround yourself with elders and people who are more knowledgeable than you, and really try to learn from them. And if you feel conviction over certain things, don't just write that off. Like, actually look at your life and see what you can change.
Absolutely. If you believe it, you can achieve it. We hope to see you in the gym soon. Thanks for listening. Please give us a like, subscribe, ring the little button if you're on YouTube, what all the other big YouTubers say. But thank you for watching.